Hello and welcome to Million Labs. Today we are going to give you an overview of Bubble. You can kind of think of it like a house tour. We're going to show you where basic things are and what basic things do. Let's get started. So the first thing you're going to notice on your right hand side is this page. And basically what you're seeing is your app page. So in this case, we are seeing the index page. Over here, you get to know what the name of each of these pages are. Bubble comes with a few built-in things. So for instance, a 404 page, that's your error page, comes built in. If you want a different one or change it, if you just pick 404, you're going to get bubbles. It also comes with a built-in password reset page, which looks something like this. And then after that, you can add new pages. So if we add a new page, we're going to call it page 2. We have the option of cloning from any of the pages we've already built, or we can create a new page by either clicking on here or simply leaving this blank and hitting create when we first are making the page. So now we can see we've got page 2, and page 2 currently looks like this in our app. So moving along the top, the next thing we have is an option to pick an element. So if I am searching for something like page 2, it's going to find it and show it to me. Every time I add a new element, that is going to also be able to be found up here. For instance, if I added a new group, so here's a new group, we can see it's group A. All of a sudden, I can also search for group A up there. We don't need group A, so what I'm going to do is delete it. I can either right click to bring up this edit tab, or I can click up here. Each edit tab will look slightly different depending on which element I'm currently dealing with. What can it do? We'll get into more details later, but for now, think of things like you would in a Word document. So I can undo, I can redo, I can cut, copy, paste, those sorts of things. Also, if I'm trying to undo, redo, there's also a very handy button here where I can undo or redo by clicking on these two arrows also at the top. Moving along, I have a help button, and the help button does what you'd expect it to do. I can get some help. I can watch some videos that Bubble has. I can also check out Bubble's forum by clicking on this link directly within Bubble. One other thing I can do is report a bug. Next, you see the saved button. Bubble auto saves your work. What you should do though is periodically check to make sure saved is actually up, as occasionally there can be an error and auto-saving isn't working. So just keep an eye on it. If auto-saving breaks, you will have to redo your work from your last save point. Next, we see this little present. The present shows us new features and fixes that Bubble is offering if we click on it.
Currently, at the top of my screen, we do not see any issues appearing. I'm going to create an issue so we can see what that looks like. You can now see that I have an issue showing. If you have issues with your build, an issue checker will appear, just like this one. As you are adding items onto your app, Bubble is constantly checking to see that you haven't made any mistakes. If a mistake is found, it will appear at the top, just like this. Mistakes need to be fixed before you can deploy your app live. It is generally good practice to fix the issues as they appear. So how do we do that? Well, we can click on the issue and we will see a list of all the issues. We can then click on the specific issue and it will tell me what's going on and what I need to fix. In this case, I've put an image onto my application, but I haven't actually provided any information. So I could add either dynamic information or a static image to fix this. So here we will quickly upload an image. So now we can see that in the image element, I now have an image. There are no longer any issues to resolve and nothing is showing at the top, i.e. our app is happy.
So moving along to the top of the screen, we can see grids and borders. Grids and borders help to give us a way to easily visualize where elements are in relation to one another. Or put another way, they help us to work more easily. So for instance, if I don't have show grid of any kind, I can see that I'm working with a blank page and I really don't know where one thing is in relation to another if I put it down. If, however, I put show grid, all of a sudden I know which dimensions I'm working with. So in this case, I have a grid of 20. So that means each of these little squares is 20 by 20. So very easily I can start to visualize where's 100 versus where's 20 apart from each other. Another thing when you're setting up your grid is that generally you want to use a light color of some sort. So you can kind of pick any color and then usually set it to a lower opacity. Opacity is just talking about how easily you can see or not see something. So that bar, you can move it up or down here. Then when we kind of look through some of the other options, generally we like to show horizontal lines. You can see that it's a lot harder to see things without them. Another option that you have is to show gutters. Again, this is just depending on your own personal preference. One other thing we usually would recommend is snapping to edges and grids. That just means when you put an element on the page, it can snap to an edge or a grid. We don't usually use X-ray mode, and there's a few other properties here you can play with to see whether you like them or not. If at any point you want to learn more about something you're seeing on the screen because you're not sure what it is, there's an easy way to do that. So for instance, with the X-ray mode I just mentioned, I can hover over it and then I can click See References. That will bring up Bubble documentation, which will provide you with more information. And if you don't automatically see what you are looking for, you can either scroll up or down, or you can click on the side. And so in this case, again, we can see X-ray mode. And then when I look at it, I have a little bit more information here. So it's telling me essentially that it shows all of the layers if I click on it. You can do this for anything that you see listed. And then we can also show distances on hover. We recommend doing this because, again, it makes it a lot easier to figure out where things should go on a page. So for instance, if I put a group on a page and I put another group on a page, I can see where this group is in relation to this other group, all the way around the group. So that makes it really handy. So again, going back here, one other quick thing we'll show you is that you can show element borders. So for instance, if I had selected that, I can see it, and you notice that without it, I can't. So that may be something else to consider when you're looking at things like wireframing. So have a play with your grid and border settings and see which ones work best for you. The next item at the top of the page along the toolbar is the Arrange feature. Arrange lets you display or move items similar to a Word document. Right now, I can see my entire page is selected, and I can also see the page's property editor. Each different element in Bubble comes with its own property editor. When I click on the Arrange button, I currently have no choices because the page element cannot be moved around. It is the background canvas. If I create a couple of new elements on that canvas, then I'll have something to move around or arrange. So let's try that. So I am going to grab a group. We can see the property editor for that group when it is selected. So again, here's the group. It's selected, and we can see its property editor. Each element can generally be styled within its property editor. So if we look down, we can see here's the style. We are going to quickly change the style of this group to better understand how Arrange works. So in this case, we can see a default group. We are going to remove the style. We are going to put a background style of a flat color. We're going to move this editor up a bit. We're going to scroll down. We are going to change that to just this random blue color. And then to make this easier to see what we're doing again, we're going to add a second group. We are again going to go down to now this group's property editor. So you can see we've got group B. We are going to go to the style. We are going to remove the style. We're going to go to the background color, and we are just going to make this a red color. So we can see when I have selected page 2, I can see page 2's property editor. When I go ahead and select group A, I can see group A's property editor. When I go ahead and select group B, I can see group B's property editor. And in these two cases, we can see that we made some changes to the style. So this one is blue and this one is red color. Now, when we click on Arrange, we can see
For this group, I have some options. So I can bring it to the front, send to the back, center horizontally, etc. So just to give us an idea again about some options, so I'm going to put this group right here. I am now moving the blue box in front of the red box. I am also going to move the property editor out of the way. Next, I am selecting Arrange and choosing to center vertically. Next, I am selecting Arrange and choosing to center vertically. You can see click Arrange. I can see that the blue box is centered vertically within the red box, which is centered vertically. I can also do within the red box, which is centered horizontally. I can also do the same thing to center horizontally. I can see now the blue box is centered horizontally, and I can see now the blue box is centered horizontally. Looking at some more options with regard to arranging, we can see that if I left click, I can select something. And then if I press Control and left click again, I can select something else. So you can see I'm actually selecting multiple items at a time this way. Now, if I right click, I can see that I am bringing up a menu which essentially includes a lot of the Arrange features. Alternatively, I can click on Arrange itself. Now here's where you can see that in either place, I can now group elements in a group if I want to work that way. So go ahead and have a play with the different Arrange features, depending on which element you have selected, whether it's one, multiple, which type it is. You may have some of these available, you may just have a few. So for instance, if we select Align Left, we can see that we've moved the element over here to the left. And if we want to undo that, we can always select that arrow button again. Looking at the top toolbar again and finishing off with the last few items here, we can see there's another search bar. So essentially this is an app search tool where I can search in different ways. So here I can search by element type, for instance. I can also search by actions, APIs, etc. So uses an API, is of a certain element type, etc. And then within that, I can search further. So for instance, with element types, knowing that I don't have very much on this page, I could search by element types and group. And then I would also have the option of searching by text. In this case, I'm going to ignore it to show more in my search. And you can see that not only what's on this page is coming up, but anything in this app. So things on the 404 page, the footer, the header, etc. And here, of course, is the ones I'm actually looking for on that page 2 of the group B and A. Besides the search button, you can see development. If we click on this, we can see that this lets us know which version we're looking at. Are we looking at the developer view? Are we looking at the live version? Or are we looking at something else? If you have a paid plan, you will be able to create a save point. So in this case, you can see it's letting me know I can upgrade because we've just done the free version. Also over here, I'm going to be able to go back into history, and I'm going to be able to revert to a save point based on a saving point I've done specifically or a date and time. This again is going to be for the paid version. And lastly, I am going to be able to deploy the current version to live in this section. Beside development, you will see preview. If you hover over preview, you'll have some different options. You can preview normally. You can preview safe where there's no custom HTML. You can preview safe where there's no plugins. You can preview safe where there's no plugins in HTML. When we choose what we're doing, typically normal previewing, that is going to show us what our user sees. We can now see that that's popped up. You'll also notice, depending on what you have in your specific URL, i.e. if you're in your debug mode, that the debugger can also come up. That's when you'll have this bar across. If you click on your profile image at the end, you will be able to see your specific applications that you have built, the plugins you have made, the templates you have created, your account information, and of course, be able to log out. Another way to get into my applications is just to click on the B button. It will take you to the same place. So we can see my apps, my plugins, my templates that came up with by pushing the B button, or by pushing the My Applications, my plugins, my templates under the profile picture. So in addition to the pages, which we've talked about here, and the top toolbar, which we've talked about here, and the fact we've mentioned that for each element type, it has its own unique property editor. We next are going to talk about the different types of tools or core features that are in Bubble on this left toolbar. So if we looked in the left toolbar or tabs, we can see that we have design. We have workflows, which act like connectors. They are actions that tell Bubble what to do in certain situations. For instance, what to do when something is clicked. Then we have a tab related to data. So what type of data are we either collecting or providing users? We have a tab related to styles. We have a tab related to plugins. Plugins are third-party applications that we can add onto Bubble. We have a settings tab, and we have a logs tab. We will go into more detail in another video. For now, congrats! You can find them in the Bubble.